every single running back matchup for week 6 and start or sit for every running back as well. Let's start with the morning game on Sunday with Denver and the New York Jets. We'll go J.K. Dobbins as a start here, and we're going to go R.J. Harvey as a sit. Look, Harvey was somebody that was kind of a meh for us for a little bit there. No, I realistically, you can't start Harvey unless you absolutely have to. And so Dobbins, on the other hand, is the running back 15 on the year so far. I mean, he's been consistent. He's been kind of steady Eddie, like 12 to 15 points a game. I'm totally cool with that. And so I think you start Dobbins in a matchup that is average for both of these teams. Breece Hall, on the other hand, you have to start as well. And Isaiah Davis, you're sitting. And so this is a pretty straightforward one where you're going to start the starters in this game. You're going to sit the backups. There's not necessarily any matchup advantages or disadvantages in this one. So we'll have J.K. Dobbins and Breece Hall both in the B tier, and then R.J. Harvey and Isaiah Davis both in the G tier, again, starting the running backs ones in this game.
There are literally so many injuries going on in Baltimore that, like, I'm just waiting for when they're going to figure out that they just have to give Derrick Henry the ball. He's going to be in the C tier, very, very down from what you would expect for Derrick Henry in years past. But, I mean, this is where we're at this point. His volume is not near as elite as what we're used to. He did have 15 carries last week, which was the second most that we've seen all season. He salvaged his day with a touchdown. It's not pretty there, but I'm telling you guys, you including myself, who owns him in the Flock League, have to keep starting Derrick Henry. Like, I have no choice. And I know he could screw me, but I literally have no choice with these injuries and these buys, etc. His upside is too good for you to just sit him. Kyron Williams on the flip side, going to be in the A tier coming off of a 30-plus point game where he fumbled the ball at the end of the game, which kind of sucked, but he still is looking to be really, really good and one of the best matchups against a defense that's in shambles right now, which is Baltimore. They've allowed the second most amount of points to running backs this season in fantasy football. Blake Corum and Justice Hill, both H tier guys, they're backups. You're not starting them.
Dallas versus Carolina. Javonte Williams in the A tier. He's been the running back 3 in the year. You have to start him every single week, and nobody else there is worth starting. It's Jaden Blue right now, but, again, none of the running... they literally... Schottenheimer came out and said, hey, Javonte's our bell cow. Like, legitimately. You don't see a bell cow very often in today's NFL. Javonte's a bell cow. It's actually sick if you have Javonte Williams. He's in a top 5 offense where they're giving him every single carry. That's sick. That's why I bought him. Rico Dowdle. Look, if it's not going to be Chuba, which it doesn't seem like it is at the time of recording this video, Rico Dowdle's a must start. Trevor Etienne's a sit for us. You saw what Rico Dowdle did last year. Get him in your lineups no matter what last week. Get him in your lineups. Javonte Williams in the A tier. We'll have the 2 backup running backs, Jaden Blue and Trevor Etienne, in the J tier. And we'll put Rico Dowdle in the B tier. But again, it's a B tier ranking for Rico Dowdle. It's also a very good matchup for Rico Dowdle, as the Dallas Cowboys have allowed the 6th most amount of points to fantasy football running backs this year. Go put these guys in your lineup, Javonte and Rico, or if it's Chuba and Rico, in that case, I will add this disclaimer in there. If it's Chuba and Rico, I'm going to say both of them are mess at that point, but I think it's probably going to be Rico Dowdle, and you're going to go ahead and start him.
So we got Arizona and Indy next. I think we got a pretty good idea of who's going to get the bulk of the carries, the bulk of the groundwork, and that is Michael Carter, who had 18 carries last week, had a touchdown. He also had 5 receptions, resulting in 18 points against Tennessee. Now, you are going to see a less friendly matchup this week against the Colts run defense, which has allowed the 7th least amount of points to running backs. I think a guy like Michael Carter, who's just stepping in for James Conner and Trey Benson, who both got injured, is really just the next man up, and he does have a lower floor than most starting running backs this week. But I do think for a guy who is essentially the only running back there that didn't screw him this week, because DeMarcado fumbled the ball at the goal line, like, you're probably going to see a good amount of work from him this week as well. DeMarcado, I do want to mention, we don't have him ranked, and we don't have Bam Knight ranked either, because DeMarcado actually got like the least amount of work there. Bam Knight, it wasn't any prettier. DeMarcado still had like that breakaway run that was almost a touchdown. Would have had 16 points if it weren't for him dropping it at the goal line. But we'll see what happens with his usage this week. I would err on the side of he's in Gannon's doghouse, but who knows, because Gannon just got fined for the altercation that happened on the sideline.
True.
Maybe like as part of their apology, they give him more touches, but I don't know if he's going to cost them the game again. Like, they might sit him. So anyone beyond JT and Carter in this matchup, Carter we're going to have in the C tier. JT is one of the best running backs in football right now in the S tier. Nobody else here is startable.
All right, let's go to Seattle, Jacksonville. From a matchup standpoint here, 2 middle-of-the-road teams, so no advantages or disadvantages from a matchup standpoint. I mean, look, with the Seahawks backs, like, I hate this. You hate this. I don't hate it. I have 0 shares of these boys. 0. And I have 12 fantasy leagues. None of these guys. And this is exactly why. Because every week you are basically just trying to decide, is it worth starting Walker this week? Or is it worth starting Charbonnet? Or are they both sucking? Or are they both going to be good this week? Or who's going to get the red zone carry? And who's going to have 8 yards per carry? Like, Mez for both of them. D tier for Walker. Obviously, he's better. If you have to start one, you start Walker probably. But Charbonnet's been the one getting the red zone carry. So F tier for Charbonnet. Realistically, if you have these guys, freaking trade them off your team. Just quit doing this to yourself. Jacksonville, on the other hand, you do have to start ETN. He's moved down to the C tier for us. He's not been a slam dunk as he was at the beginning of the season, but he's still very solid. I mean, he's still a running back, one by definition. He's running back 11 on the season. But 8 points in his last game. I mean, look, I think they're going to pass the ball a lot in this game as well, truthfully, but I still think you have to start him. Bashal Tootin, we're not going to start. So it's D tier for Kenneth Walker, C tier for Travis Etienne, and then we'll have the backups Charbonnet in the F tier and Tootin in the H tier. Again, Mez for the running backs in Seattle. Start Etienne, sit Bashal Tootin here.
Chargers and Miami, the big storyline of this week is Hassan Haskins or Kamani Vidal. And guess what? We're going to tell you, ideally neither. If you can help it, I would sit both of these guys. We will list them as Mez, because I understand if you're a Hampton owner, if you're a Benson owner, if you're a CeeDee Lamb owner, or anyone who's been banged up or missed time or whatever, season-ending injuries like Neighbors, then you may have to start one of these guys or flex them this week with the bye weeks as well. So Haskins and Vidal we're going to have in the D and F tier respectively. This is a friendly matchup for running backs. Fifth most amount of points to running backs allowed is Miami's defense this year. I mean, their run defense looks abysmal. We've seen that 2 straight weeks now where they've just gotten totally run over. So there's a chance that one of these guys gets a goal line carry and he ends up being productive. We're giving the nod to Hassan Haskins this week in terms of the tiers, but I literally think it's a toss-up here. Honestly, I think Kamani Vidal has higher receiving upside capability, and Hassan Haskins is just the big body. He's like 6'2", 230. So if they have like a goal line opportunity, I would err on the side of them giving that touch to Hassan Haskins. But again, it's really, really ugly starting either of these guys. We don't feel good about it. Devon Achan's the only guy that you're like slam dunk start every single week in this matchup. A tier for Devon Achan. Ollie Gordon's a backup. You're not starting him.
I'm getting all the bad matchups here. New England and New Orleans, I don't want to touch these backfields right now. Ramondre and Alvin Kamara are both going to put in the D tier, and it's like if they're scoring touchdowns, if Ramondre it's touchdowns, if for Kamara it's receptions. If Ramondre doesn't score touchdowns, he's bad at fantasy football. Like legitimately, he doesn't score you enough points. If Kamara doesn't have the targets, he's bad. He's not scoring you enough points. Why? Because his counterpart, Kendre Miller, we're going to have him in the G tier. He has been cutting into his workload and getting more snaps and also getting some red zone carries. All 6 of them they've had this year. So, for New England, Ramondre in the D tier, Travion Henderson in the F tier, Mez for both of them. I don't feel good starting either of them. It's a completely all yellow lights for them, so completely neutral matchup, Vegas line, etc. On the New Orleans side of the ball, I will say start Alvin Kamara because I feel like you have to. Kendre, I'm going to put as a meh, but realistically, Kendre, I'm actually going to change and put as a sit because it's a tough matchup. New Orleans playing New England, who has allowed the 4th least amount of points to fantasy football running backs this year. Kamara getting going in this game through the receiving game is going to be the only chance of actual, legitimate fantasy football running back production in this game. And so, again, I don't love this matchup. I don't love the running backs in this matchup. Same thing as I said about the Seahawks. If you have Ramondre and Travion, I wouldn't be opposed to you just selling them at this point because I don't like deciding which one it's going to be. But do keep in mind there is no Antonio Gibson there now, so we're going to see what Travion Henderson's new role is going to be there without any Gibby in that. We'll see. Hopefully it goes up. Hopefully honestly, Travion becomes
all eyes on that matchup for Henderson. So
and realistically, I don't think he's going to produce this week. So we'll see. No. I hope I'm wrong.
We got an interdivisional matchup between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Quinshawn looking like one of the biggest bell cow surprises this year, and he's a B-tier running back. I think he will be most weeks in what is a neutral matchup against Pittsburgh. Jerome Ford a sit, Dylan Sampson a sit behind that as well. Jaylen Warren, we've got in the D tier. I am listing him as a start this week, and I am listing Kenneth Gainwell as a sit. I know Kenneth Gainwell's coming off of a 30-plus point game. There was no Jaylen Warren. It was against Minnesota. This is a really tough run defense against Cleveland, who has allowed the 2nd least amount of points to fantasy running backs this season. I think it's going to be tough for Jaylen Warren as is. There is no more room for any other running back in that offense to be productive. I don't trust Kenneth Gainwell. If anyone is going to produce there at the running back position, it will be the top option who is now healthy, and that is Jaylen Warren.
Tennessee, Las Vegas. Tony Pollard.
Disgusting.
What's the verdict here?
I think with the buys and injuries, you got to start him.
So we'll put star for Tony Pollard and Ashton Genty, but 2 very different starts here with these running backs. It's a better matchup for Genty. The Titans give up a ton of points against running backs, and so we'll put Genty in the A tier and Tony Pollard in the D tier here. Now with Raheem Mostert and Tyjae Spears, we're just going to say sits for both these guys. Tyjae's in the J tier. Eventually, you might be able to start him, but right now, no way. Raheem Mostert, we don't even have ranked. And so, again, we'll start the starting running backs in this game, but the backups we're definitely not starting.
So Cincinnati and Green Bay. I'll just start with the easy one. Josh Jacobs, S tier. He will be in that tier most weeks. This is a great matchup against Cincinnati, who has allowed how many points? Like the most amount of points to running backs this season. So expect a really big week from him. Nobody else startable in that offense beyond him. Chase Brown. Now with Joe Flacco potentially starting this week, they said they wanted him to be ready. I don't know if they'll start him. We'll see. He had the least amount of carries that we've seen all season against Detroit. When Cincinnati is down, and they will be down most weeks for the rest of the season, they will be passing the frick out of the ball. This bodes really well for Higgins and Jamar Chase. This does not bode well for the running back in Chase Brown. I have Chase Brown. We have him in the D tier this week. I have him as a meh. Legitimately, I don't feel any better about Chase Brown than I do Tony Pollard. And I actually feel better this week about Tony Pollard, who I think has a better matchup against Vegas. Chase Brown, where he's not getting enough volume on the ground, a terrible offense that's constantly down, and playing one of the best run defenses in Green Bay, I think he's borderline a sit. You got to start him this week because of the injuries and the bye weeks, some people might have to. But again, if you can help it, I feel pretty iffy about Chase Brown. I'm going to list him as a meh.
All right, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. Should be a good matchup here. San Francisco, both these matchups, by the way, are meh. San Francisco has a better Vegas slate than Tampa Bay does in terms of implied points. But McCaffrey's in the S tier. You've got to sort him every week. Brian Robinson in the I tier. You got to sit him. On the Tampa Bay side of the ball, doesn't look like Bucky Irving coming back this week. Basically, Todd Bowles, I think, said today that they had no timetable on his return 29 minutes ago. So, they're not even talking about it yet. I mean, it might be 2 more weeks for him. Darn. So, Rachaad White, you saw what he did last week. He wasn't efficient, but he's really good at those toss plays, and he also had some receiving upside. And so B tier for Rachaad, you have to start him while Bucky's out with that offense being as good as it is. San Francisco's defense hasn't been that great this year either. And then Sean Tucker, you're sitting. A lot of people look. This is just. I just want to take an opportunity to point out to those of you who are still watching at this point in the video how silly stuff like this is. People last week were legitimately trying to say that Sean Tucker was going to be the running back one there.
Yeah, I know.
It's
history says otherwise. So
it's not like there's nothing suggesting that.
No.
21% snap share, 3 attempts, and 3 targets on 3 receptions for Sean Tucker. He had -4 receiving yards. And so, sure, he came in and played a couple snaps, but no, it's Rachaad White. It's the startable guy. Do not start Sean. Start Rachaad White. Again, B tier for Rachaad White and I tier for Sean Tucker in this matchup.
So Detroit and Kansas City should be a fun one to watch, but the only running back that we're really comfortable starting is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. He's pretty much defensive matchup proof. Everything, he just has such a high floor with his usage. David Montgomery is going to be in the F tier this week. Kansas City has allowed the 5th least amount of points to running backs this season. You just saw Travis Etienne last week have a dud game against them, and again, skill set wise, Monty is more of like that type of running back where he's going to really establish and maintain a lead if they have a lead in this game, and I don't think that's going to be likely. This could end up being a matchup that's a lot more friendly for Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, we have him ranked in the S tier for a reason. And on the flip side, you've got Kareem Hunt and Pacheco. Who's it going to be this week? I mean, 2 weeks ago it was Pacheco with the touchdown. Last week it was Kareem Hunt with 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. But if you actually look at the numbers here and the snap shares and the usage, Pacheco actually has the upper hand over Kareem Hunt. 63% snap share for Pacheco last week to Kareem Hunt's 33%, but they both had the same amount of carries. Kareem Hunt was more explosive with his carries, obviously more efficient because he had the 2 touchdowns there, more yards per carry. You have more receiving usage for Isaiah Pacheco. I think your floor is so slightly higher than Kareem Hunt, and that's not saying much because both of these guys' floors are pretty low as is. I have both of them listed as mez. I'm only starting them if you absolutely have to, and Brashard Smith behind that is irrelevant.
Buffalo, Atlanta, you're going to start the 2 guys at the top of this matchup. Obviously, the tough part is Atlanta's actually the toughest matchup for running backs this year. And so it's a tough matchup for James Cook. They kind of shored up that defense here in the offseason. So it's going to be A tier for James Cook instead of S tier this week. But here's the thing. You still have to start him. On the other side, Bijan Robinson has a neutral matchup. He's going to be S tier every week for us. And so we'll start both of these guys, these running back ones in this matchup. 2 sits here, Ty Johnson and Tyler Algier. You're not even thinking about it. They're in the J and H tier. Ray Davis in the J tier as well. Look, you just can't start these guys. The fact of the matter is. And so this is a simple one. Start the starters, sit the backups here.
Yeah, Chicago and Washington going to be simple as that too. I think after the showing that JCM had last week, Bill, we'll put him in the C tier this week because this is a really, really good matchup against Chicago, who's allowed the 4th most amount of fantasy points to running backs. Long term, will JCM be able to maintain this? I don't know. Will he have another 27-pointer? I don't know. I do think his floor is higher than it usually is just because of the matchup alone. I don't think McNichols and Chris Rodriguez are going to eat into that too much after his breakout last week. DeAndre Swift in the C tier. His volume has been pretty consistent in this offense, and these are pretty friendly matchups for him in the coming weeks as well. Washington, New Orleans, Baltimore, Cincinnati, the Giants. Starting with Washington here, I mean, you could see a little stretch here where Swift is pretty productive. 13, 10, and 16 points before the bye week. I think his floor is pretty high with that volume alone, so I feel pretty decent about flexing Swift.
So there you go. That's every running back matchup for this week. Do us a huge favor. If you enjoy this video, it's helpful for you. We'll keep putting them out. Just make sure you drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed as well if you enjoy the videos. Helps you get them when they come out. Helps you set your lineups every week. But we've loved doing them for you guys. We're going to continue getting you through this fantasy football season. We are a third of the way through fantasy football season/football season, which makes me happy, sad. Mostly sad.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you here soon.